Welcome to this channel, Contented Couples. This is our first video, so I'll explain what's planned. I'm Annie Power. I'm a couple counsellor in London, and I became very interested in contented couples, not perhaps the ones I see in my room. And so I asked couples of different traditions, those who met through romance, through arranged marriage, or who deliberately arranged their own marriage online or through agencies, what made it work. And I've written about this in a book and called Contented Couples. And on this channel, I'll be speaking to many colleagues to get their ideas about this. And today, I'm very happy to be speaking to my colleague, Cynthia. Cynthia's been helping people with relationships for about 50 years, and she's been married for just a little bit less than that, I think.
Yeah.
She's also written a book on forgiveness, which is a really good topic for us, and we'll come to that a bit later. So I'll be asking Cynthia about this, and I know from our previous conversations, she'll have lots to say. Thank you, Cynthia.
Oh, pleasure. I gulped when you said 50 years, and it's true. It is true. And it's equally surprising to say how long I've been married for. However, I will get to that. Look, Annie, thank you very much. I've had the pleasure of reading your book, and I think it's enormously interesting and valuable. So thank you for inviting me along today. You've touched on this, but I'd like to hear a bit more about what drew you to research and write about contented couples.
The place I jumped off from was the majority of couples I work with are from the romantic tradition. They fell in love and they chose their partner because they felt so in love, and therefore it felt they'd found the right person. I work occasionally with people in arranged marriages, and certainly I work with people who met through the internet and other methods. But a lot of the unhappy couples I see, their distress is the greater because having been so deeply in love, they were conned, actually. And our culture doesn't really prepare us. And when I say our culture here, I'm thinking of the Western bits where romance is promoted, and that the marriage industry contributes to this as well. And the idea is you fall in love, that tells you found the right person. And then when you get married with a wonderful wedding, that kind of bottles it, and then you'll have it forever. And of course, anyone who's been together any length of time knows it's not quite like that. But couples who come to therapy have often found it too hard to get over that initial disappointment and that loss of the idyll. So I became very interested in other traditions, very much including arranged marriage, which work on a different premise, which is you don't use magic to initially find your person. You use logic, and then you expect to build up love, just as when a parent, a mother in any culture has a baby, they're faced with another person who they don't know. But we have a complete faith that as they care for that little tiny person day after day, they will grow to love them. Now, sometimes they fall in love instantly, but that's a different thing. That's a kind of infatuation. The real attachment, bond, and love that grows over time.
Yeah, so I hear the magic of that first meeting or the first series of meetings. Again, so I'm interested in your word logic around arranged marriages. That actually there's a kind of thinking through who is suitable. How might this couple work within the tradition in which they live, I guess, or within their family. What about the third one, which you said luck? Now, surely that isn't quite what you're asking, because your third grouping that you mentioned were internet dating, going through agencies. Isn't that logic as well?
You're absolutely right, Cynthia, that the subtitle of the book, Magic, Logic, or luck does not match the three categories. So the romance ones, they are particularly full of magic. They rely on magic. The arranged marriage particularly rely on logic for the initial selection. People in the self-arranged, I initially approached with the idea, well, they may have the most wonderful combination of the two. But what I actually found in my research is all three groups are using all three methods. Of course, the random romance people are not without some reflection and logic. A very nice bit of logic that many of them employ is they introduce their prospective partner to their friends and their family. They get other views, they triangulate. Now, the arranged marriage, the thing that's particularly strong there is that they work to match up expectations. So there's a real exchange of key information. Do you want to have children? How much do you earn? What are your plans for the longer term? In a way that in the romance marriage, people fall in love and then sort of begin to fish around and see whether those terribly important things match. The most different thing in the arranged from the romantic tradition is that the romantic tradition and most of the self-arranged people are guided by their autonomous needs. They think, will I and this person fit? In the arranged marriage, people are thinking of families. Will the two families get on? And of course, that's if the two sets of in-laws get on, we know what a blessing that can be for a couple. Yes. Which is not to say that in arranged marriages, that's always turns out right, because there can be mistakes and the families don't get on. But it's a very wise impulse is to try and match up the families.
Yes, how interesting. And I'm going to admit that I love your title, Magic, Logic, or Love, because love, isn't that interesting? Magic, logic, or luck, because I think that they sum up so well the elements in a relationship and in a relationship enduring. But you've pointed us to the arranged marriage and the marriage that the individuals arrange through agencies online, and the random meetings that people have at parties and bars or whatever. Can you tell us a little bit more about the research you did? How did you find these people? Who did you see in order to develop your ideas?
I probably will cover the research more fully in a further interview, but I'd love to talk about it briefly. Well, it was a long journey to find the couples I needed. It was a long journey because you might well ask, why would a couple share their story like this? Well, it is very carefully anonymized. I don't mean the stories have been disguised. They're very little disguised, but I've just left out the bits that could make them recognizable. And I just, whenever I was teaching or talking or just talking to friends, colleagues, I put out the word that I was looking for couples willing to share their story. And that's how I found them. And I knew I wanted a balance between those three groups. And then I was very lucky. In a way, the pandemic helped me because using Zoom, I then was very lucky to find couples in the US as well as in the UK. So there's exactly 9 couples from UK and US, 9 from the US. Both groups being represented from both countries.
What I really appreciate about your research is the breadth of it, because you're right about, you've researched with heterosexual couples, gay couples, America, here, across the span, of meeting by chance, arranged marriages, and meeting online. I think that brings a richness to your notion of contented couples. Yeah.
I also, of course, enjoyed the range of people I met. It was such a wonderful thing for me. And I learned so much, which then helps me in my work with less contented couples. And one of the very notable things is that within each group, there was such a span. So within the arranged marriages, there was really very traditional, as people will find out if they read the book, people married in a very traditional way, organized by their parents or the community matchmaker, or people who are essentially in an arranged marriage, and they would definitely say they are, but they kind of arranged it themselves and their parents gave it the nod. And in some respects, the random romance and the self-arranged, there's some ways in which they're closer together, which is that they carry more the kind of Western idea that ultimately you're choosing by love. Do I love the person enough? And in that group, there were very much heterosexual and same-sex couples. And again, a real range of the more traditional version of that, or one couple who spoke quite a bit about non-monogamy. They actually weren't practicing non-monogamy, but it's something they considered. So that was, and that was actually really rather a nice challenge to me, because in setting about this book about contented couples, I hadn't really bothered with the philosophical question of what is a couple. I just thought I knew, really. So that was an interesting one.
Yeah, yes. So within each group, there are clearly very strong variations, aren't there? And presumably within each, as you're saying, in many of the couples, the balance between, and forgive me if I go back to the theme of magic, logic, or luck, because I think that works. I think within for individuals, the balance between what helps them be content will vary in terms of magic, logic, or the kind of balance of magic, logic, or luck.
Yes. And in another video, we're going to talk about what makes it work in the long run, which just turns out to be so similar in all those incredibly different, from the traditional version of arranged marriage through to the talking about non-monogamy same-sex couples. They're so similar. That's what's so kind of, as a couple therapist, that's what's so beautiful. It's the same project to build an attachment bond, and it's the same thing that makes it work out, which is being prepared to be a learner. But I keep not answering your question that you're reoffering about luck, because I said a bit about magic, which is the spell that love puts us under. We have neurochemicals running through our blood. There's logic, which is being very clear about our expectations, being really working through in cold blood, are we going to work as a couple? And then luck, I really feel it's got to be factored in. There's a bit of luck in who you meet, but people think that's where all the luck is. The main luck is what happens to the couple once they're together. Because if you take a couple who are sort of averagely well bonded, if they hit terrible road bumps, and we know that the worst one for a couple is if they lose a child. If they hit terrible road bumps, they might not make it. Now, that averagely bonded couple, if they'd been very fortunate, they'd moved to a house where they had some really lovely neighbors who supported them and loved them as a couple, and they were lucky in their jobs and lucky with their health, then they'll probably make it through fine. So that's where luck, is a real blessing. Good luck.
Yeah, that makes such sense. That makes such sense.
So luck is important in, it's a blessing if we have good luck in any life or marriage.
I'm so glad you've said that, because I think we can so underestimate the impact of what happens in the world and in our lives, and how that affects us and our relationships.
That is really important, because if therapy forgets the external, it can become rather a punishing thing that people haven't done enough to get themselves sorted. Yeah. So thank you, Cynthia, so much for talking. And if you've enjoyed this, please do subscribe with the blue button. And the next video is going to look particularly at the role of magic and how helpful this is in selecting a partner. Goodbye.
Bye.